Hello, gamers. Welcome to episode 31 of Gamers Galaxie. Today, we're speaking with Tal, the solutions architect for Immutable. But before we talk to him, I need to talk to the legend Rubik. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. A little bit chaotic morning, and I'm not a legend, but thank you for keep on saying that. I appreciate it.
You'll always be a legend, me, brother. But yeah, Tal, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Very excited to be here. I do want to say that, both of you and just everything that you guys are doing is greatly appreciated at Immutable. We do talk internally about you guys, and it's obviously all very good praise. So we're not taking what you guys do for granted. We really appreciate it, but otherwise, really, really excited to have this conversation.
Oh, wow. Very, very cool. Thanks. That's good to hear. I'm glad. we love doing it, but it is a challenge keeping up with you guys. You guys just unleash so much stuff, and we're just like, oh my gosh, when do you guys breathe? When do you sleep? So yeah, very man. I've never heard of a solutions architect. It sounds very complicated. Why don't you tell us about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll tell you about myself, and then maybe my role at Immutable as well, secondarily. So I come from a tech consulting background, did it straight out of college for a few years. I think I was introduced to crypto around 2013, although I was a little too young back then. So it wasn't until 2017 when I picked back up in the crypto sphere. And then 2020 when COVID hit, when we had DeFi 1.0, when we had NFTs going somewhat mainstream, or at least being introduced to mainstream. That's when I knew crypto is here to stay. Like it's proven itself. And since then, I've been pretty much a crypto degen day and night, on Twitter all the time. And yeah, really following Twitter. So I knew I wanted to be in this space. And I learned about Immutable around 2021 or so. Saw that they were building primarily for gaming, and I clearly saw the value that NFTs have for games, right? Player ownership, Web3 within the gaming sector. So I knew I wanted to be at Immutable. I've been here for a little over a year and a half now, and really enjoying it, even though it feels like I've been here for 5 years. Now, now in crypto, it's pretty nuts. One day feels like 10, right, in the normal world.
Oh yeah.
But in terms of being a solutions architect, my primary role is really helping games and ecosystem partners onboard to Immutable and really onboard to Web3. Right? Some games have good knowledge in Web3, some just really do not. Right? So you have to find that level feel. And it's really working with these games to kind of check out our products, learn about our products, start integrating, right? Planning all the milestones, all the deliverables, doing rounds of testing before either the NFT collection goes live or the game goes live, or really any integration with us goes live. And then ultimately all the way up to launch and post-launch support as well. So really mapping out all of the mechanisms and all of the integrations that they do with us. When you think about games, they're inherently all unique and different. It's not to say that, integrating Passport is different, right, for games. It just depends where they want to introduce Passport to their players within the game itself. Right, so all these mechanisms are different and unique, which is what I love about working with these games. And it's just a challenge, right? It's a journey to work with them, to integrate with Immutable. So that's at a high level what a solutions architect does. We are somewhat on the front lines working with these games and partners. So a lot of my role is also gathering the feedback that they provide, right? Funneling that into our engineering teams, our product teams, and just making sure that they're in the know that, hey, partner A has asked for this, partner B and C have also mentioned this in the past. Maybe we need to take a look into this and see if we want to introduce that into Immutable's product stack. So that's kind of secondhand, but really the main role, as I said, is really just working with these games, making sure they're integrating with us successfully and all the way up to launch being successful.
Sounds like a pretty important role. What's the work volume like? There seems to be a lot of games choosing Immutable. How are you guys coping with that sheer number of volume of clients joining Immutable?
Yeah, I'll say when I joined Immutable, teams, I wouldn't say weren't working together. They were, but now I would say we're a well-oiled machine. We have teams specifically set on X, Y, and Z, right? So we have a roll-ups team working on the ZK EVM. We have a partner success team. That's what I'm on, kind of helping partners and games integrate and launch Immutable. We have all of these different teams working on specific use cases and areas within Immutable, but then also working together. So that has really tightened up. Yes, we have a lot more games onboarding now. We are shipping products a lot faster now. So that does catch up to you. But then again, we are a maturing startup or company, so we do have these processes in place to handle that. And every game, every partner, every ecosystem partner needs a different level of handholding, right? Some of them, like I mentioned earlier, are really knowledgeable in the Web3 space. They know what a smart contract is. They know how to calculate gas and estimate it. So for those types of games and partners, you don't need as much hands-on. You're just checking in with them every so often, answering any questions they may have, just having regular syncs. And then other games need a lot of hand-holding. And for them, we dedicate a lot more time and really help them onboard into Web3. So yeah, definitely the workload is high, but that's crypto, right? When you're trying to create a new category, create a new industry, and obviously be the leader in that market. This is what it takes, right? So.
Robbie's talked about Web 2 this year in particular. Devs have been more involved into Web 3 versus before, when it was Web 3 degens that were investors and gamblers deciding to start up a game. Are you noticing that shift to where the workload is getting less because more qualified people are getting into the space now versus back then?
It's a great question. I wouldn't really say that. Even if the studio is well established, they've been around for a while, most likely this is their first game or set of games that they're building in Web3. So they still have a ton of questions. They might be very, very knowledgeable in the Web3 space, but Immutable ZK EVM is not like the same thing as Polygon ZK EVM, right? Our rollups team have customized it, fine-tuned it specifically for gaming. So some of these studios do have questions on the fine-tuning. They do have questions on Passport, right? Custodial aspects, legal questions, things of that nature. But no, even if the studio itself is mature and has been around, yeah, they have more resources, but they still require the help.
Yeah. What are your top 3 favorite things about your role? Did you get you have an idea of what that would be?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like I said, I'm a crypto degen, and I've been in the space before joining Immutable. So the saying, do something you love, you never feel like you're working. I mean, I can truly say that's how I feel at Immutable. I just incredibly passionate about both gaming and crypto. So two of them together, and it's just the perfect fit. But when it comes to the top 3, I would say A is working with a vast majority of different games. Like I said, I come from the tech consulting space, so it was kind of the same thing. I had projects that would be either 6 months or a year long, and then you're just on to the next. And here is somewhat the same. The relationships are a lot closer here, I would say. But here I'm working with anywhere from 15 to 20 games at a time. Of course, I think that number will jump up in the near future. But every game, like I said, is different. So it's really interesting to work through this journey with the game. At the end of the day, most likely they're all integrating Passport and Checkout and some of our other products, but how they're doing it is all different. So they have different needs and requests that we work with them. So that's definitely the top thing, is working with many different games and going through these journeys with them. I would say, secondly, is really, and I mentioned it actually before, is directly shaping how our products look and feel, right? And just the roadmap in itself. We are on the front lines working with these games and partners, so our feedback and their feedback ultimately is super important to our products and engineering teams. We've taken good strides at the end of last year to really tighten the feedback loops between games and our engineering teams and product teams. So now we have regular meetings with product and some of our games, right? Listening to their feedback and adding the highly requested items into our roadmap. So yeah, number 2 is really helping shape the roadmap and the development lifecycle of some of our products. The third one I would say is, it really goes back to my main point, is this is crypto and gaming, which both to me are really fun. So it really doesn't feel like I'm working. I'm online day and night, all day anyway. So now I'm just doing it in terms of gaming and crypto. I mean, that sounds awesome to me. And I will say it goes hand in hand that, working in this space, Immutable hires really the top people out there. So working with some seriously talented people here at Immutable, like we have some giga brains that it's almost like you're talking to Elon Musk in a sense. Some of these people, like, they're so smart. Like, I regularly have meetings where I'm like, damn, I might be the dumbest person in the room, but that's how you grow, right? That's how you learn. That's how you grow. So really enjoy working with everyone here. I know you had Inga on. She's insanely smart and talented. Steve Green as well. Of course, Robbie, being the founder, is too. So yeah, those would definitely be the top 3, but the list probably goes on and on.
I don't know if you could hear that, but I could just hear Rubik smiling over the interwebs right now. So you just made his day.
I actually am smiling. I'm right. I'm right about something.
He makes that reference quite a bit about Robbie being very much like Elon Musk. So that's hilarious that you said that.
No, Robbie's great. Robbie's great.
Yeah, he's very impressive. Very impressive young man. Well, he's not really a young man anymore. Well, no, he kind of is. He still is pretty young, honestly. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what he does over his career. But yeah, so in my job, I have to play with levels, temperatures, flows, and pressures, and make sure everything just works. But one of my pet peeves, or pet hates, as we kind of sent you this question, was I have to play middleman between upper management and the grunts out in the field. And for some reason, they can't pick up a phone and talk to each other and just solve it themselves. They want me to relay telephone style back and forth between both parties. And so my pet peeve is the grunts outside get mad at me, and the people above me get mad at me for their communication that they need to talk about amongst themselves. It's really dumb. I don't get it, but that's one of my pet peeves. So what's one of yours that you have at your current position in Immutable right now?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I would say for the most part, everything is great. I truly love what I do here at Immutable. I think everyone is bought into the mission, right, of player ownership, right, Web3 gaming. Everyone is bought in. Everyone is working extremely hard every day to make that a reality. I mean, I would say the thing I don't like the most, and it's nothing really to do with Immutable, is some of the games I work with, they just end up running out of runway, right? They just didn't have a good maybe sale, or they just didn't raise enough. They're just, I don't know, development time is slow, and they're just running out of runway. So that is definitely the worst part, is a game just not wanting to stop building, but having to because they run out of a fund. fun. So it's like saying goodbye to them, not even because they were successful or not. It's just, wow, you ran out of runway. So that's one thing that really sucks, right? Because I work with these games every week. I'm chatting with them, having calls with them, and then just the runway issues just really suck. But to go along with your middleman comment there, I mean, there is some middlemaning in my role, right? I'm working with these games. If they have a request and we don't have that feature available right now, right? I would be going to our engineering and our product teams and kind of giving this feedback, seeing where it fits into our priority on our roadmap. And yeah, I mean, sometimes I have to be the bearer of bad news, but along with that bad news is obviously the reasoning of X, Y, and Z, why we're not looking into it right now, why it's lower on the priority scale. And then obviously, you know, the workarounds that they can do in the meantime until that feature or that product is there. So that maybe that's number two, but really the top one is watching games run out of runway. It sucks because you see the founders kind of faces light up when they're talking about their game. They're so excited about it. They have a small team, right? And then, you know, they run out of runway and that's it. So it's definitely the worst part.
Never thought of that. I never thought of that. You have to watch someone's dream die. That's okay. Wow.
Yeah,
it sucks.
We're seeing that with another game one of my favorite games is struggling to get funding. They say they have now, more than likely about to close it. But Sparkball, it's an actual Immutable game. It's the funnest game I've played in, like, even Web 2, like in a beta form. It's so fun to play, and they're struggling to get funds to finish it off. So I hope that someone smart enough picks it up because that could be a huge win, that game.
Yeah, for sure. And it's something I saw, you know, the last 2 years, right? Within the bear, I would kind of safely say that this is the beginning of a bull, right? So I think raising is probably easier now. It's going to get easier this year. But yeah, the last 2 years have been pretty brutal in terms of crypto being in the bear market.
So we touched on this before around the workload. Like, Immutable has been exponentially growing in games. Has the team been exponentially growing to handle them, or is it how is Immutable going to handle bringing all these games to get the service they need and bring them through to the ones that don't run out of money? That is, you know what I'm trying to get at? Like, it just seems like you see that the graph of the number of games Immutable's won that Immutable showed themselves. And it's exponentially growing, the number. And now, like 50 games in the last 2 months, and Robbie just quoted, that's more than anything before. How are you guys going to handle that workload? Is there a plan for that?
Yeah, so it's just something that we've been working on, I mean, ever since I've joined, right? Is streamlining these processes, understanding exactly all the milestones that you're working with on a partner. And I will say, there are maybe one or two teams inside of Immutable that are working on this specifically. For example, we have the Immutable Developer Hub. That wasn't around when I joined a year and a half ago. And now, as a developer, you can go ahead and create contracts through there. You can set up webhooks through there. We'll have some more products coming down the line that I probably cannot mention right now. But making it easier for developers to kind of self-serve, right? And do things through this hub that maybe I had to do manually for this partner, you know, a year or so ago. So it's kind of that, right, is having the Immutable Hub and the self-serve aspect and automating things for these partners. It's building better products. Again, a product that I think is going to be announced relatively soon that's really great for developers. Will make it a lot easier for them to interact with the Immutable Zkevm. So in that sense, it kind of takes away the workload from us having to really talk through this partner on exactly how to do this one specific thing. Now it's just one simple API call that they have to do. And then lastly, I will say our teams are shaped around these partners in a sense where we have like the studio game side of Immutable, and they're working on kind of the self-published games and then also partnerships with these closed games. So they're really set up to really help these games. And then we have myself and kind of my team that are helping other games. And we are scaling up these teams. So in terms of workload, yeah, part of it is really streamlining these processes, adding new products and features that kind of help in self-serve and make it where it's less manual for us. And then, yeah, I mean, partially it's just having this immutable hub. I really want to stress this hub. Um, I don't know if you guys know of Stripe or have taken a look at Stripe as a developer, but their platform, their developer platform, is incredible. Like the onboarding experience for a developer, everything is self-serve, everything is API based for the most part. It's really like a world-class developer experience, and that's where we'd like Immutable Hub to be. So that will definitely alleviate some of the workload on people like myself, and then even other people at Immutable.
Yeah, we in my last role we implemented Stripe for payments, and it's so easy to do. Like it just made online payments like go to the next level. We never had to deal with them ever. The docs were so good, the product was so simple. We could just look it up ourselves and fix the problem, no dramas, with it. So that I get your angle is instead of having to increase staff numbers and throwing manpower at the problem or human power at the problem. Building automation tools and tools that are simpler that devs on the developer side, on the game side of things, can look up the docs, plug it in, and get a majority of the work done themselves, and then come to you guys for, maybe niche areas and areas that are just a little bit different to, the norm of the docs.
Yeah, exactly. And just to even key in on that aspect, it was our goal with StarkX is to make it completely API based. You do not need to have Web3 developers on your team or your staff. Everything is API based, and that's what Web2 developers understand, and that's what they know. Pretty much every developer knows how to use an API, right? Interact with APIs. Now, in terms of Zkevm, it's a little more complex because of smart contracts and EVM. However, and like I said, this product should be announced relatively soon. We will be adding abstraction on top of the Zkevm to make it, again, super simple for Web2 developers to use the Zkevm and to interact with the blockchain simply through APIs. So that's, again, coming back to the Stripe topic where it's all API based, super simple for Web2 developers. That's really the goal for us, is to have simple APIs, simple SDKs, make it super easy where you do not need to, hire 10 Solidity engineers for your game, right? Maybe just one, if that.
I wanted to ask a question about that. So one of the criticisms of StarkX's implementation was the very basic capability of the contracts. Was that the API's restriction, or was that the actual chain's restrictions to that? And does Zkevm change that? Will there be API-driven development that enables more of the features of what I'm trying to say? Like StarkX was very restrictive of what people could do. They had to do lots of workarounds on Web2, AWS. Zkevm was brought in to give more flexibility around contracts. Are the APIs going to reduce that complexity, or is it going to be more open and more flexible, even with API-driven development? Sorry, mate, I've taken like 30 minutes to ask that question, but I hope you understand what I'm asking.
Yeah, no worries. So StarkX, the main issue is it's not EVM compatible, right? And there's just no smart contracts on StarkX. So that severely limits us in what we can do and what we can offer to games. Now, a game that simply just wants the ability to mint NFTs, transfer them, enable, player-to-player trading, StarkX is a great choice, right? The throughput is insane. You can mint millions of NFTs for free with instant finality, right? So that's really the key benefit of StarkX. But like I said, there's no EVM compatibility, there's no smart contracts, so you can't really do anything permissionlessly, right? If you want to have in-game lending, you as a game will have to take custody of those assets, unless there's a third-party tool or project that offers this, right, for your players. Which I believe there is one I saw recently on StarkX that does this. But yeah, ZK EVM now, because it's EVM compatible, you can deploy your own smart contracts, custom smart contracts. Yeah, this infinitely increases the possibilities that you can have and do as a game, right? In terms of Web3 components. It's actually something I talk a lot with my games and partners is, maybe right now they're on StarkX, but I ask them, think a little bit long term, right? Most likely you want to introduce more aspects of Web3 into the game. Maybe you do want to have staking within the game. Maybe you do want to have permissionless lending and borrowing of your assets. Maybe you do want to have your own token and like a DEX, right? And kind of primitives and DeFi and all of that good stuff. So the possibilities on ZKVM are really endless, right? You're only limited to what you can code on a smart contract, and maybe perhaps you need oracles or something like that. But yes, our overarching goal is to make Web3 very easy for game developers, right? Like I said, we do not want you to have to come to Immutable and have to straight away hire 10 Solidity engineers to build on Immutable. So creating very easy to use APIs on top of the Web3 elements is a great selling point to games, and it's something that they really like. Like this product that I keep mentioning, I've been kind of showing it and telling it to a few partners, and they are super, super excited because it really makes it easy to integrate with Web3.
Yeah, and so these APIs are going to be limited to what Immutable enables, or is it going to be like whatever Ethereum enables?
Well, it's whatever Immutable enables, because you have to hit it's our APIs, it's our endpoints, right? So we're building the backend tech to service these calls.
So will you be able to, so a customer come and see what APIs are available, and they'll be able to say to you, hey, we want to do this, and then they can write their own contract to do that. And if there's enough, say, games that want to do that, eventually the team will go, you know what, that's enough to build an API for and cover that feature as well. Am I in the right track here?
Yeah, for sure. Every product decision and just prioritization stems from the demand from games building on us.
Yeah.
Right. So, I'll just take the ZK EVM for an example, right? Why we were losing so many deals was we didn't have EVM compatibility with StarkX. So what did we do? We listened to the games that we were pitching to or that we were talking to, and we went ahead and partnered with Polygon, right? And now we have that solved, the EVM compatibility side of things. So really, every product decision stems from the feedback from the games that are actively building on us, or maybe even actively rejecting us in these BD calls. Again, I'm not in the BD calls, so I don't know exactly how it goes down there. But I want to stress that we definitely listen to our games, we take their feedback, and we prioritize based on the overall demand for our product. Typically, I will say though, in terms of APIs abstracting away on-chain elements, sometimes the games don't even know how beneficial this is until they compare these APIs to maybe something on another chain. Like, ooh, we have to make this contract call on X, Y, and Z chain, but with Immutable, it's one very simple API call. So I think over time they'll see just how useful building with APIs is versus building all of that back-end infrastructure to handle contract calls and such. So.
That's there was a lot of high-tech stuff there, and I'm just stepping out of the way. It's like watching Mike Tyson and Floyd Mayweather go at it here with the skill set that you both have. So, but the thing that I took out of that I was able to pick out of that was you guys are listening to the games of what they need, and not just the ones that you get, the ones that you missed on. Why didn't you get them? And that lights my ears up. I love hearing that, because even in the ones you swing and miss on, you want to know why. And that's why you just said, we decided to go with Polygon. to get that solution for the game companies, and that's what I want to hear. I hope everyone picked up on that, because that's what you want your company, if you're banking on this company, to do. Like, what pieces did we miss on? What pieces do we have in place to progress to make this easier for the game developers? And so hats off to you guys on that. So
it's just the API thing might be confusing people, but what an API is 95% of devs deal with APIs in their job. So it's a common practice that people use to retrieve data, pretty much, or retrieve a payload of information.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of what it is the Immutable builds a common tool that people want to use, and you can also customize that API call. So you can say, I want to get the smart contract that does this, this, and that, and then when it will return. So all the dev has to do is say, understand what the API rules are, and because they already know how to use APIs, they can then just hit that API with a command and get the information they need. Pretty much that's the simplest way I can explain it. I might be wrong, Tal, because I don't deal with APIs a lot myself. But yeah, what it does is makes it very simple for a developer to be able to use smart contracts, which is quite complicated. It needs audits. You have to audit smart contracts that you write and things like that to make sure they're secure. But with an API, that audit will happen once, and then anyone can hit that API and it's safe. So it's very, it just speeds up the pace of development. It speeds up the simplicity, or it makes it more simple. Therefore, it's cheaper. Just the benefits of using APIs, if it is like every single thing in development is a trade-off. There's positives and negatives of everything. So there are negatives to APIs. It becomes a little bit more restrictive for what you can do. If you want to go outside the box a little bit, you can't do that as easily as if you're writing the contract yourself. And that's what I was kind of getting at with my question. How flexible are these APIs going to be for the needs of developers? Is it going to be all-encompassing? And I think you answered that question, Tal, saying yes, over time we'll add more and more capability around the API calls and move away from them having to write any contracts at all and be able to become purely API driven. And I can't wait for this tool to be announced. It's not a secret. We know that there's something coming. That it's been told multiple times that API-driven development is going to be Immutable's Zkevm's focus, and just the tool to get that done. I assume is going to be the announcement. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at our docs now because we just released it in our docs, and I'm not sure when you're airing this, but yeah, I mean, we can just talk about the first API that really changed, that sets us apart from other chains. I see it's on the docs, so should be able to say, but it's a minting API. So if you think about how you would mint through a regular smart contract on another chain, you would have to make a call to that smart contract, to a function within that smart contract as a game. Now, with that, you have to manage things such as nonce, you have to manage gas. There's all these calculations and things you have to account for to actually mint something to a gamer or a player. But with this new minting API that we have just released in testnet, and mainnet should be shortly, this minting API allows any game to, within one API call to us, mint assets to any player that they define, right? Any Ethereum address. Now this can be batch mints, so it could be like 200 mints with one API request, right? And yeah, I mean, the thing I want to stress about this is it's so much easier than building all the backend infrastructure for minting and contract calls. This is simply, you go to the Immutable Hub, you deploy your contract, you start setting up this minting API, you just call it, and then that asset is minted to the player. And you can include your metadata in the API call so that we have the metadata, all of the marketplaces have the metadata right away. So it's truly game-changing in terms of game developers can do versus on other chains. Yeah, and it kind of goes back to the point I mentioned. A lot of game developers maybe won't notice how useful this minting API is at the start, but as soon as they start using it, or maybe they compare Immutable, like minting on Immutable Zkevm versus another chain, they'll see the benefits. And then allows you to have really high throughput in terms of minting. So one thing to note, and
Go ahead.
By the way, we're covering the gas costs for the minting API. I believe until
September.
later this year. Yeah, so it's completely free for a game to even use this minting API at the moment. So
Is this something that would be utilized? So I'm trying to put this in layman terms here. Would this be utilized like if a game wanted to do an airdrop and it would make it easier for them and more cost effective? I know you guys are doing it for free for a while, but even beyond that time period, is that where this would be something beneficial, or am I reading this wrong?
So an airdrop of NFTs or ERC20s? Yeah, NFTs.
Yeah, I would say more like the NFTs. So I'm assuming that's a little bit of a complicated process to do an airdrop. So is this making this easier, or?
Yeah, so I wouldn't really say this is primarily for airdrops, although theoretically, like, you could use it for airdrops of NFTs.
Mm-hmm.
Where this comes into play is in game. If you're earning NFTs as you play, as a game developer, you're just making one API call, and that's it. As opposed to, like I said, just directly calling the smart contract.
So this would be great for like
now,
Wagme Games then, with their cards that you can earn per day, or their chest.
A better example would be Metalcore. So if you're playing Metalcore and you're out in the PvE world and you're fighting a bot and you kill the bot and the bot drops an item and you go pick it up. When you pick that item up, it mints that NFT into your wallet that's attached to the account.
Okay.
And it's done with code. In the code base, it's one line calling the API rather than having to have. And what that does is simplifies the process of minting an NFT, makes that less risky for issues to happen because it's very linear the way the code works, very simple the way the code works. The complexity of the code becomes very simple and much easier to implement. Am I right, Tal? Sorry, correct me if I'm wrong.
No, 100%, because if you are just minting directly through a smart contract, I don't know how familiar you guys are with nonce, right? So you have to keep track of the nonce and keep increasing it by one every time to use an Ethereum address.
Okay.
With us, there is no nonce management. A game can send 100 requests at a time, and we'll just batch all those requests and perform those mints as they come to us. So a game does not need to worry about nonce. Again, it doesn't need to worry about gas. And I will say, even after this promotional period of Immutable covering gas costs, the minting API was built with gas in mind. So it's actually going to be cheaper to use the minting API versus directly using the smart contract, right? Last thing I will say. Yeah, and last thing I'll say is this is for the ZK EVM, obviously. I don't see why a partner would use regular contract calls versus like over this minting API. It really solves everything that a game needs. And even just internally, every partner that I've pitched this minting API to, it's like, yeah, we're going to use it. Clearly, it's so much better. Yeah, so that's
it's making sense why so many games are choosing Immutable. It's just and backing up the fact that you just said that you work with, you're a very smart guy, obviously, and you think you're not the smartest guy in the room sometimes. So, and you just see that coming through, and why we've sensed this. And every time we meet with someone from Immutable and find bits of snippets of information, that the truth in the puzzle comes together of how great the whole entire ecosystem is. Very exciting to hear that. And that's pretty much alpha. We're good. We love alpha here at Gamers Galaxie. Thanks for that, mate.
Yeah, I appreciate you both breaking that down for me. I understood what you're saying, but I was trying to put it into terms of like, how is that going to look in the gameplay, or what does that mean for the gamers or the devs? But like Rubik, with you saying with the metalcore, I didn't even think of that. That's just mind blowing. That the possibility is going to be there to where you kill something, it drops, and poof, there's an NFT. Like, that's just it's like next level. I don't hear anybody else talking about that, so that I get really excited about that kind of stuff. So yeah, awesome stuff.
It just makes it very simple to do that, where other games developers, keeping complexity out of code is really important. So other developers are like, you know what, we'll do this workaround, if they don't have that option to do that. Where this is like, wow, that's even easier to do it this way than actually the other ways. So you'd be like Tal said, it's a no-brainer to use it this way. It's actually easier than even to do it like Wagmi Games does in a chest later on. You know what I mean? Like it's very secure, very simple, and it's APIs tighten down what can go wrong. So yeah, it's very exciting. It's awesome, massive news for Immutable.
Big brain stuff there. Absolutely loved it. I kind of want to circle back a little bit. You talked about earlier where you were really, it really bothered you to see certain games, basically watch their dreams die, and it was tough. But like, has there been any games that you've, had some pride in that are, doing either a little bit successful or maybe very successful that maybe you had a hand in bringing into the Immutable ecosystem, if you're allowed to say? I don't know if you are or not, but have you had a hand in anybody coming into this ecosystem?
When you say coming in, do you mean like from a business development standpoint or just helping these games launch?
It could be either or, however you want to answer it. Either you helped them launch or you were like, hey, I think this game's really got a potential, the devs involved, the team involved, and you were able to bring them into the Immutable umbrella. Either way, whichever way is easiest for you to answer, or that you're allowed to.
Got it. Yeah, so I'm not on the BD side, so I don't go out and prospect and scope out clients and bring them on.
Okay.
I work with games after they've already decided to build on us. But yeah, look, some of the games that I'm directly working with, one of them is Warner Brothers, right? So this was a trivia game that launched, I believe, summer of last year, end of summer last year. And it's Bleacher Report Watch to Earn. And, I'm from the US. Basketball has been something that I like to watch, not necessarily so great at playing, but I like to watch. So it was really cool to work on this with them and then see it actually on TV. So on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I believe, NBA on TNT, right, has their pre-game show, post-game show after all the games are finished. And then they still do run Bleacher Report Watch to Earn campaigns. So it's just a trivia game.
Yeah.
And you earn NFTs and ERC20s, I'm sure you know. So that was really cool just to see it on the big screen. Other games that I'm particularly either working with or interested, I remember growing up, I was obsessed with Vainglory on my phone. And it turns out that we're actually working with some of the original team with Shardbound. So really excited for Shardbound. Pixelmon is another great one. That's someone that I'm working with. So Pixelmon, really excited about the games that they're building. It's not just one, it's a few.
Right.
Kiraverse is another great one. I do prefer kind of shooter games. So Kiraverse is really great. And I love the team behind Kiraverse. They're just a pleasure to talk to work with. They're really professional. And they have a really good strategy on how they're breaking into Web3 and just gaming in general. And then maybe just another one I'll mention. And like I said, I have like 15 to 20, and then there's over
you got a lot.
200.
Yeah.
Another one is, I think the last one I'll mention is Cool Cats, which I don't know if they've publicly announced their launch date, so I just won't say. But yeah, they are building a game on the ZK EVM. It will be live somewhat soon. So really excited. Cool Cats is a huge brand in Web3. I remember hearing and seeing all about them in 2020, 2021 or so. So it's really cool for it to come full circle, and now they're kind of building with us. So those are just some of the games. And, if anyone at Immutable told you they knew every and all game, except maybe like the BD and acceleration teams, most likely they're not telling the truth. Like, I do not know every single game. There's just too many building on us. So I know the games
pain.
that yeah, especially for you guys having to try to keep up with all of this. It's really tough to know all the games.
Yeah.
Can you hear me again? I'm back. I just disconnected. I'm back again. Can you hear me?
I seen you. I got your message. I was gonna cover for you there. Yeah, Rubik had a little technical difficulty issues there. He's back. He probably melted his Ethernet cord with all that high tech talk he was doing. No, I'm just messing with the man. But yeah, that's really awesome. Especially the Shardbound game. We're real big on Shardbound here. We absolutely love their team. The trivia game. With basketball, I think it was Warner Brothers. You said that's one that really piqued my interest. I wanted to see more from that because I think trivia is such a huge thing. I don't know how it is the rest of the world, but it is so huge in the bars over here. There's trivia everywhere in the bars. They love it, and I could totally see that taking off. And I'm a huge basketball junkie. I still play at my age on Monday nights. Who's your favorite NBA team?
I will say the Sixers because I grew up most of my life in Philly or close to Philly. So yeah, if I had to pick a team, it's the Sixers.
On a side note,
I don't know. I just like.
Do you like?
Yeah,
you know who Nick Kellen is, right?
I do not know.
Oh, he used to be with Immutable. He's not anymore, but he was a huge Sixers fan also. So I was just wondering if you guys had a Sixers connection going on or something.
Sorry, yeah, I haven't heard that name, Nick Cal.
He was the CM of GOG for many years.
Yeah.
And then,
Got it.
He was amazing, and he loves basketball.
Got it.
He just tweets about basketball now. Where are we up to?
Number 7.
All right. So, what are you most excited for? I missed all those lists of Web3 games that you helped bring on personally. I'll have to listen back myself to hear that. But what out of all the games you know in Web3, which ones are you like really interested in?
Yeah, so and it's great to see like the sheer amount of genres and different games building, not just only on Immutable, but Web3 as a whole. I'm not a huge fan of trading card games or kind of like auto battler, kind of like casual. I like to be deep in the game and doing all the actions myself. So really excited about any sort of shooter games, first person shooter like Shrapnel. I think looks really great. I know Rubik, we talked offline in DMs, but any sort of MOBAs, super excited for them as well. But yeah, look, this really this ties into what I said earlier. It's first, I can't really pick any favorites at Immutable. I don't want to do that to my partner games. But secondly, honestly, I just don't know all of them building on Immutable. At this point, there's just so many, so hard to keep up. We keep like a current list of known games that have been announced through different channels, or they've self-announced and that. And we're up to. I get people from Immutable telling me that they use my list to find out what's building on Immutable. I find that funny. That's funny. Yeah, no,
we still don't know them all. There's another 100 at least.
Yeah, and then just try to even count all of the developers building on self-serve, right? It's just so many. Yeah, I know we have internal lists, but it's not even just seeing the name of the game, right? It's actually doing research, seeing the gameplay, following along with that game. It's just so many, and it's a great problem to have. So I will say that. So.
Yeah. There's a big shooter rising up the list of Immutable favorites from the community in Bad Mad Robots. It looks really good.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually, I'm not a shooter fan, and I had it really low on the list. Like as in the 4 gamers Galaxie crew did a top 100 games they're looking forward to build, like most pumped for list. So it's not ranking them or rating them how good they are. It's what we're personally pumped for, which is a good rating when you don't know much about the games yet. Good way to rate them. And I put Bad Mad down probably 50th, but I'm about to release a video of our top 25 aggregated between the 4 of us, and it shot right up the list. So yeah, I was very surprised to see that outcome. But there was hardly any shooter games on Immutable for over a year, and then all of a sudden there's like 20 now, like games building that are shooting.
Yeah, no, and I'm super excited. Just out of curiosity, what's your number 1 game, if you can disclose on that list?
We can't We can't give that list yet. Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, okay.
Because everyone will
It was
see
all pretty much the
what
same,
we-
wasn't it?
Yeah, I think one person had it second, I think, but
Yeah.
we all had Guild of Guardians number one.
Yeah.
So it came out
Nice.
But
Very nice. Very nice.
you'll have to watch the video when we bring it out of us discussing why we chose, why this top 25 became the top 25.
Right.
Yeah, please. No, excited.
Um,
Yeah, I'll definitely watch it.
So moving more to back, well, we kind of went off track into focusing on Immutable, back to you again, but now let's go back to Immutable. So what made you choose to work for Immutable? Right at the start, when you went, I'm going to choose to work in Web3, I'm going to work for Immutable. What was that story?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty easy choice. So when I decided to break into Web3, I picked, I don't know, 5 or so different companies or protocols or projects, however you'd like to define them. And Immutable was one of those. And the reason that the list of 5 came about was, what I've noticed in crypto is there are clearly product market fit projects and companies, and there are clearly projects that they've created a solution and they're looking for the problem. I think that's really prevalent in crypto. It's, hey, we can use crypto rails, let's build some solution and, we'll find the problem after. So with Immutable, it was so natural and it was so easy. I've played games in the past, I still play a few today. And when you spend money on anything in the game, it's just poof, it's gone. I remember playing RuneScape back in the day and being lazy and wanting to buy gold or buy like good armor. And paying for that through some scammy online website. And actually, I'll give it to these websites. Most of them were legit, but probably 20% of them weren't, and I got rugged. So it just makes so much sense when I was looking into Immutable and just crypto in general was, crypto and Web3 and gaming. So Web3 gaming it just makes total sense, right? The market's already there. They already want it. Now it's just building actually good, high quality games, right? Not building with Web3 first in mind, but building with like the game in mind and the actual quality of the game first. And the Web3 elements just add on to it and just bring more value and, align incentives more clearly between the games and the players. So yeah, that's ultimately why I chose Immutable. I wanted to be in crypto. I wanted to work on something that made sense, that resonated with me. The mission was clear, and I, importantly agree with it. And I do think Web3 gaming is inevitable, as Robbie always says. Is Immutable as a company, as we always say, Web3 gaming is inevitable. I truly do agree with that and resonate with it. It's really just a question of when and not really if anymore. There's just too many games now being developed, being built, not necessarily only on Immutable, just in crypto. There's just too many. Like, we are going to see a hit most likely this year. Yeah, ultimately that's why I chose Immutable. It was so clear cut, such an easy choice.
So from when you first started and you made that choice, it was easy for you to see, and you've been through this process now for a couple years. What has that experience been like for you from the start to now?
Yeah, I mean it's been a wild ride, I would say. I feel like since I joined, our products have gotten a lot better. I think Passport released around a year ago, maybe a little less than a year ago, and Passport today versus last year, miles of a difference. We have this Passport hub, and Passport is one of the highest priorities at Immutable internally. So definitely keep an eye out on Passport. It's going to keep on improving as time goes on. So yeah, I would say products getting a lot better, the mission getting more clear, and like we can actually see the end game in itself. And what I mean by that is, before the Polygon announcement, we were on StarkX, we were losing a lot of deals for not being EVM compatible. We were competing with Polygon for market share. But since that announcement, since that partnership, like the end game is kind of in sight, right? EVM compatibility, which is what most developers prefer right now. Not really competing with Polygon per se, right? We have this partnership, this close partnership, so we count the market share together now because we are, built on Polygon tech in that sense. So yeah, I mean, it really boils down to, I think very soon we'll kind of enjoy the fruits of our labor, as we say, by having these hit games launch, be successful, and just really open up adoption to Web3 gaming. So we're kind of like right there in a sense. I just feel it. A year and a half ago, I don't know if I would say that, but now I can kind of feel like we're really getting there. Zkevm just launched. I mean, there's the first game going live is very, very soon.
Awesome.
And you'll see many more live games this year. I would say a lot of the games that have building on us for a year, 2 years are all going live this year. So yeah, I just feel like we're right there. I don't know. Maybe you guys feel it. Maybe it's just me, but it definitely seems like this is finally the year.
I got you can pass this back to the team if you want. I can show you the DMs as proof too. A buddy of mine, Sanjuro, he contacted me earlier tonight about Passport, and he's an old school Web3 guy, and he's gone through the traditional way, and he was using Passport for the first time tonight to sign up for Shardbound. And he DM'd me worried. He's like, I think I just got rugged. And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, this is way too easy. And I thought maybe he did get rugged because of his fear in the DMs. And then when he walked me through the process, like, no, dude, that's Passport. That's how it works. He was like, oh my gosh. So it's so good.
Yeah.
People that are used to the old way are concerned that they're getting rugged.
No, exactly. Yeah, Passport is built to primarily be for Web 2, 2.5, I guess you could say, gamers, players. So yeah, when you're really used to, like myself, MetaMask and a ledger, Sport is so simple, and it's non-custodial too. So it's got the best of both worlds, and it's definitely something that we have to work closely with games to have them learn about Passport and really realize the full capabilities and full benefits of using Passport versus like another wallet within the game. So happy to go in depth on that too. But yeah, Passport is great.
Tell us about it. Let's talk about Passport. We know we've both tested. I think maybe WT hasn't, but Dexes did.
No, I have. It's simple email, man. I couldn't believe how easy it was. Oh, what do you...
No, I don't mean that. I mean the depth of Passport's future. Like, so no. I've tested with the UI researcher and seen what it's going to be. I'm pretty certain that's open information. It's not quiet, but it's like a Steam-like experience from what I've seen. Is on the way. Is that what you believe, Tal?
Yeah, exactly. And it's something, like I mentioned, we have to really educate the games on, because for them, they're thinking about their players, they're thinking about onboarding, and rightfully so. Right? They don't want any friction for onboarding players into their game. Whether it's Web 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. It's just the lowest friction possible. So a lot of games do come to me and ask, hey, like, custodial wallets sound great. Everything is API based. The user's never introduced to a Web3 wallet. We do everything for them, right? So we want custodial. But where they don't really put much thought into is, okay, you have this custodial solution for your players, but now all these players on let's say Immutable, ZK, EVM, they have one specific game wallet for that game, and now they have to manage their funds across all of these games, all of these different wallets. They can't use any third-party ecosystem tools or marketplaces, so the experience is just completely fragmented to that one specific game. So when we're educating games and partners about Passport, we try to stress on the fact that Passport is not necessarily just a Web3 wallet. It's a social identity layer. It's your access to the whole ecosystem, right? One login, one wallet across the whole Web3 ecosystem at Immutable. So, game A onboarded myself, right? I created a passport. Now I can go and use that same passport, that same wallet in game B. So the social layer is really interesting, and I'm not too involved with the roadmap, like the long-term roadmap of the social identity part of Passport. What I do envision though is, having friends in Passport, seeing activity in Passport. I'm not saying any inside info. I'm purely just kind of guessing.
Yeah.
But because it's a social identity layer, like having friends introduced in Passport, seeing friends' activity in Passport, like you said, the Steam experience.
And there's also like
This,
achievements and ranking sort of a social aspect to it as well. Like so,
yeah,
just like in
exactly,
Steam,
yeah,
when you play games, you get you meet milestones and you get badges and stuff. I see that happening as well in the longer term future.
exactly, yeah. So it's great, and it's also discoverability, right? So being able to show a Passport player, hey, you've played game X, Y, and Z. We're going to recommend you this game now, and it's player acquisition for that next game, right? The player is already onboarded into Passport. They're already onboarded into Web3. Now we're just surfacing discoverability within Passport and kind of showing you what other games you could play with the same wallet, the same address, the same funds. Um, so yeah, I mean, and that's great. And because pretty much all of our games are implementing Passport and committed to using Passport, they could read assets that a player owns very easily from another game, allow them to use that in their game. So yeah, I mean, again, custodial wallets are great in that it's a lot of flexibility for the developers, very easy onboarding and low friction for players. But then on the other hand, you don't get that social part. You don't. Players now have to only trade in that one game. They can't go to a third party marketplace. There are definitely limitations with being custodial. And then also the game is taking custody of funds, right? It's a legal liability issue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so so yeah, I mean that's Passport in a nutshell, and I'm really excited to see where it goes in the next year or so, and seeing this social aspect to Passport, this gamification, badges aspect. It's going to be really exciting. So yeah,
Is there
really
any
really
is there anyone else doing like something similar to Passport? Like so, Sequence has got a wallet that's similar, but that's like a custodial wallet, isn't it? Again, and it's not it's not an ecosystem wide thing. It's just it still creates that narrow this account for that game only sort of thing. Is there anyone else you can think of that's doing it?
yeah,
Just Passport?
not necessarily. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, MetaMask is kind of similar, right? I could use my same MetaMask wallet on DeFi Project 1 and DeFi Project 2. So it's kind of like that. But then obviously Passport is just miles better in terms of functionality and usability, user experience, and all that. So I don't really know too much on other competitors doing the same thing. But because Immutable owns the chain, right? Zkevm, because Immutable owns the platform layer, and then on top of that, the product layer, we're able to do so much more than what a regular wallet provider can do because we own the platform layer and the blockchain layer as well. So the possibilities are way higher for us versus another wallet that is just a wallet provider and they can't really control the chain or the platform. So that's really where the bread and butter comes into Passport is the usability, right, for a player across all games, all ecosystems, all marketplaces. So really, really excited about Passport.
What about moving on to one area that Immutable has definitely dropped the ball in was the Dex kind of features on the old StarkX chain with Immutable there's there, but it was pretty ordinary. And there's been a lot of complaints about it. ZK EVM's been solved with checkout, but also we're hearing about third-party Dexes building on Immutable as well. What's your thoughts on that, on checkout and in this feature, and why is there a need for these third parties?
When you say a need for these third parties, do you mean Like,
Well,
why shouldn't we build them ourselves? Or
well, Checkout is building kind of a Dex. It really is kind of a Dex, isn't it? And how would you describe? Sorry, I did three questions in one, like I normally do. I'm sorry. Let's just focus on Checkout first, then we can go to that later. So, what is Checkout, and how does it? Is there anything differentiates it from the rest of the players out there? What are you excited about for Checkout?
yeah, happy to go into checkout. Um, I think at a high level, and it's my definition. I don't even think it's like the Immutable's main definition of checkout. To me, I like to think about it and educate partners on this. That checkout is a way for your players to be transaction ready. Um, so, and actually, not just transaction ready, I guess, but also perform transactions. So, when you think about building a game in Web3, you need liquidity. You need a player to be able to onboard funds to be ready to either buy an NFT or trade NFTs, what have you. So checkout is a way for a game to very easily incorporate all of these necessities, and I call them necessities. Um, doesn't matter if you're on Immutable Zkevm, doesn't matter if you're on Arbitrum or Solana. Uh, your player will have to bridge funds or add funds in some capacity, in some method. Whether that's bridging from Ethereum, whether that's bridging from a centralized exchange, whether that's using a fiat on ramp, you will have to provide these services to your players. What you have to do right now, however, is either build out and I'm saying we have to do right now on another chain, not Immutable with checkout. On another chain, you would need to build out a custom front end for it. You would need to handle all of the errors, all of the rejections, um, all of that you need to do yourself, right? All of the bridging you have to do yourself, or you can send your player to, a bridge provider like a Cross or the other, maybe Arbitrum's main bridge. But in that sense, you're still sending the player or the user to somewhere else, and it causes friction. It lowers conversion rate. But with checkout, it is an SDK, right? It's part of an SDK, but we do have this concept of widgets for checkout. So now a game can just very easily add this widget onto their website, onto their front end, and a player can just use that widget to be transaction ready. Right. So we have these pre-built widgets. You just very simply attach it to your front end, and the player can bridge from Ethereum layer one. We'll have other chains as well. They can fiat on ramp. We will have fiat off ramp as well. They can swap tokens. So checkout is built, I'm not going to say on top of a DEX. We've integrated QuickSwap, which is a DEX that we partnered with on Immutable. So now swaps can easily be done within this widget or within this checkout UI. So yeah, checkout makes it super simple for a game to have these necessary options and functionality within the game or within their front end. So at a high level, that's what checkout is. And of course, it's a relatively new initiative and product, so of course it'll be built upon and extended. But like Passport itself is just a wallet. If you're signing transactions with Passport, like you're actually using like the checkout portion of things. So checkout will be integrated into Passport, but it really is a separate product. Hopefully that somewhat makes sense. Now, in terms of Dexes specifically, I think Dexes are great to have. I wish there was one on StarkX, but because no smart contracts, what are you going to do? It has to be a permissioned protocol or project. But on Zkevm, now you can actually truly have a Dex, and not one, you can have many more, right? So I do see a time where more Dexes will deploy on Immutable. Perhaps we're already talking to some, I don't know, to be honest. But then when you think about the checkout product itself, we can actually start aggregating these Dexes within the checkout widget. So if you want to swap from USDC to ETH, we will now aggregate that within checkout and pick the best DEX, right? The best liquidity pool with the best slippage and all of that for you. You don't have to worry about that. you can sleep safely at night knowing that you got the best exchange rate, right?
Nice.
And again, this is all like speculation for me, but this is kind of what I'm seeing this going towards.
Right.
Same thing with on ramps too. We have one on ramp right now, one partner for it. But that's, again, I don't know anything contractual, or this is purely speculation. I don't see why we wouldn't have more fiat on ramps, and then for the player, we aggregate the best price for them, right? So yeah, that's the checkout product. And in terms of what's available out there today, obviously there are fiat on ramps, but then you have to send the player to a third party website or ecosystem or platform to on ramp. Other than that, I don't really know of any products like checkout. And again, it's because we own the chain layer and the platform layer that we can build this. Other providers can't really build this to the extent that we can, I guess. So hopefully that makes somewhat sense. I don't know. Checkout is just such a vast product, somewhat hard to grasp at the start.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a need. I can't wait to be able to exchange my funds around, because it is a little bit limiting, and I know some people have complained to me about it, but I know it's coming. So I think when Immutable gets it, whether it's through checkout or a third party that, I'm pretty sure they're going to verify is all legit and all that stuff, it's going to be even more, I'm trying to think of the right word here. It's going to really make things more accessible for trading. I think that's the biggest thing that I could come up with on there, because I know I've been in spots where I want to get an NFT from this game, but I was out of ETH, but oh man, I had some GOG token, but the GOG price on these things were super sky high at the moment, and because people weren't watching them and adjusting them accordingly to the market. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Well, think about this, and this is, I'll point out two things that are really going to be useful for gamers with checkout. So say a game is selling NFTs and they're charging only USDC, but all you have is ETH. So typically on another chain, what I'd need to do is go to a DEX and perform a swap. With checkout, we're able to kind of do these swaps under the hood. So yeah, we can see that you only have ETH, but okay, we'll just swap it under the hood using the DEX with checkout for you. You don't have to go to the DEX yourself. You can buy this NFT with your Ethereum. We're just going to exchange it for USDC under the hood. So that's really powerful.
Yes, please.
That's really powerful.
Where do I sign up for that? Where do I sign?
Yeah, and think about it. It's not just on ZK EVM. Like, for example, if you have assets on Ethereum, like, again, speculation, but theoretically we could do the bridging for you and the swap for you, and then purchase that NFT for you, right? It's all just one transaction that you would initiate, and we do that all under the hood for you. So
wow.
And then the other thing I wanted to point out was, no DEX on StarkX. It's limited, but on ZK with one or more Dexes, and just the fact that it's EVM compatible, and it's not really an initiative that we're going after right now, is having DeFi and derivatives on the ZK EVM, but it's something that personally, in my opinion, I do see coming. Once we have successful games and some NFTs are valued highly, I don't see a scenario where we won't have DeFi primitives on Immutable ZK EVM, unless Robbie and Alex and James just don't want that to be there. But for example, like now you can have like perpetual options and futures on NFTs and all of that, right? Because EVM compatible, now you can loan an asset, lend an asset. If I think this collection's floor price is going to skyrocket because of something, I can open up futures on that NFT collection.
Oh my gosh.
On the Immutable ZK. So just think about all the possibilities now because it's EVM compatible.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's something I'm looking, because to be honest, I'm more of a DeFi guy than an NFT guy. I know I work at Immutable, but I'm really interested in the financial side of things of crypto.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
primarily what I started out with when I came to crypto. So yeah, again, I don't necessarily know how high that is on a priority scale for Immutable, but I do see derivatives coming into play at some point.
Robbie mentioned it recently,
Yeah, he did.
so must be in the pipeline.
Was there? No, it wasn't Navic. It was the other one. The other one recently.
Bell
We
curve?
just talked about. Yes, bell curve. Yeah, he talked about the derivatives. I've heard him talk about it before too. I've heard him talk about it in the past and mention it. And yeah, every time he starts talking about it, I'm like, my mind gets blown because like it's like a whole nother Pandora's box that people aren't even thinking about right now, and the possibilities and the inflows of liquidity volumes. Oh my gosh. Whew. But yeah, you opened up a lot of stuff there. You've talked about checkout. You talked about passport. I know you're restricted to what you can say. We would be in trouble with our listeners if we didn't at least attempt. Is there anything coming soon in the pipeline other than what you've mentioned that you can talk about? If you can't, we understand, but we got to try. What is there anything you can give us that's coming?
I don't think I can say anything specific, but what I will say is that we have a lot of games launching this year, so be excited for the sheer amount of games that are launching, the sheer amount of, I wouldn't even say like marketing efforts, but like we want these games to be successful, right? So we will be having big pushes when these games start going live, both on ZK and StarkX. We love a game if it's on Zkevm or StarkX, doesn't matter to us really. So you will see a lot of high quality good games coming out this year. So that's number one. Number two, again, this goes along with the minting API, but you will see these products that really differentiate Immutable versus building on another chain. Goes along with the Immutable Hub, right? We released webhooks. I don't know how familiar, I guess, WT, you are with webhooks. But on StarkX, originally you had to just keep polling our endpoints if you want to if the state changed, right? A player transferred an asset and you want to know about it, you need to poll our APIs to know about it. But we did release webhooks, which now we will let the game know when a player has transferred an item, minted an item, sold an item, pretty much every event that a game needs to know. We have that being served through webhooks, and we'll let the game know now. So I'm just really
that webhooks versus like it says keeping the data live, up to date, fresh for and makes on the development side. That's always a bit of a challenge when you've got live information that needs to be updated on a website. There's lots of different solutions, but it's always a bit janky. And APIs calls can be, you can hit limits to so the actual accuracy of that information isn't always up to date as easily as a webhook. Is that correct?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And what's the point of a game polling our endpoint every 5 seconds as opposed to just waiting till an event is fired off to them and now they know about it? So webhooks are better for Immutable to handle load, but also better for the games. So they don't have to keep making calls and checking, hey, did this player do anything? Now they're just notified when something happens. So again, it goes along with this Immutable Hub of creating products that really make it easy for game developers to get started building on us and alleviate their major issues that they face with us. And just polling in general with Immutable isn't the easiest thing. There's a lot of things to take into account. Like you said, rate limits being one of them. But there are definitely other issues with our APIs. But yeah, webhooks really alleviate that concern. So we do highly stress for games to use our webhook service because it just makes more sense for all parties, for us, for them.
Like it's not just make it easy for them to build on you. It sounds like the tools you're building make the functionality of what they can do in a game easier as well. So like there's limitations of what people can do, what they can build into their game based on the tools you've got, and you're building tools that not only makes it easier to interact with the Zkevm, but also make it capable for them to be able to do things that they can't do in other chains.
Exactly, and a major thing is reducing the dev time. So if a partner wanted to, let's say, just run like a regular primary sale on their website, there's a lot to build into that, right? They have to build the login mechanism. They have to, have a transfer of assets. They have to pull the API to then know that transfer was successful. Then they have to mint the NFT to the player. So a lot of things that can break, within that process. So we look at all of these processes for how these games like build on top of us and see where are the inefficiencies, where are errors coming from, where are our games and partners running into issues, and how can we alleviate those issues and make them be able to build faster on us, right? It's obviously in our interest for these games to launch faster. We don't want to bog them down with development time and effort. So yeah, a large part of our developer resources goes into building these products that make it easier for the game, give them more flexibility, functionality, like you said, to build cool experiences for their players. But yeah, definitely reduce the dev time to integrate as well.
Okay, so sorry.
I was just going to say for the Immutable Hub, for example, you can deploy an NFT contract through the hub, being a non-technical person. Typically, if you wanted to have an NFT collection, you would have to like use Remix and look up the ERC 721 standard and kind of learn how to deploy this contract yourself. But now through the hub, even if you're a non-technical, founder or person, you can just go in and deploy a contract straight through the Immutable Hub. So it's making processes like this a lot better, a lot more efficient for developers.
Nice. So talking about technical stuff still, and this one's probably not related to your role, but it's really interesting to me, is this type 1 prover, the significance of it. Like you've mentioned EVM compatibility. Now, lots of chains say they're EVM compatible, but a type 1 prover says that the EVM is equivalent rather than compatible, which is a step higher than compatible. Do you differentiate the difference between compatibility and equivalency, or is that when you say compatibility, are you talking about this equivalency? That's the first part of my question.
Yeah, and that's a great question. Yeah, a lot of chains taunt that, they're type 2 prover, type 3, type 1, whatever it might be. And yeah, the EVM compatibility, the thing about type 1 provers is that it can actually prove the Ethereum state. And that's where Immutable is striving towards, right? Having a type 1 prover. So we will be using Polygon 0, their prover. That's the name. So I know that our Rollups team is working hand in hand closely with the Polygon team on this prover and in general on the ZK EVM, like finding bugs together, fixing bugs together, working on the prover tech itself.
Really?
Yeah, it's not.
So
yeah,
Immutable's working on Polygon's actual prover, not the prover specifically for Immutable, to help it get ready for the Immutable and everyone else as well that is going to implement it.
Exactly. Yes, it's not necessarily our prover. We're leveraging their technology, their teams, right? I think they acquired the team that's building out the prover. So yeah, we're working with them closely. It's not just for us. It's like you said, it's for anyone that wants to use this prover. So we want to make sure that we're working with them to make sure this is going to launch right successfully, not have any bugs or issues in it. So yeah, really excited, and it is a type 1 prover, like you mentioned earlier. So
at the moment, what's in place? Is there a prover at all in place, or is it? I've heard that it's a DPoS solution at the moment, doing all the transactions on Immutable Zkevm. Is that correct?
Yes, you're right, and you're correct in that, and that was the goal all along. Because again, like I said, it's Polygon's prover, right? It's Polygon 0, so we are working with them. We are waiting on them. It's not something that we can necessarily handle ourselves, purely ourselves. But that was the plan all along, was to launch the Zkevm and then very shortly after, attach the prover and use the prover. So I know that it is coming around the middle of this year, if not a little earlier. So yeah, you're right that right now there is no prover, but that is the next step or the next phase, as they call. I believe we had a blog post about it too.
Yeah, no, it's not hidden information. I found out about it through a conversation with the founder of another game, and then shortly after I saw that article come out, and was quite surprised that I thought they was just going to put a different prover in for now and then upgrade it as it came. But it seems like this is a temporary stopgap until the Type 1 prover is ready, and then implement that, which was just announced by Polygon that it's ready now. So it should be soon that it's going to get put into Immutable. How long do you expect it to take, if you're able to comment on that?
Yeah, I think middle of this year, although, to be honest, I'm not entirely sure. That's what I've heard, and I think that's what was written in the blog post as well. Again, it's something that our teams are working with Polygon, so like timelines could change. I'm not too sure about it. I highly recommend if you guys can, and I'm happy to push for it. Having a podcast with someone from the rollups team, like really going deep down on the Zkevm and the rollup side of things, I think that would be a really interesting podcast.
Yeah, maybe for the people that are technical and
yeah, true. It's not your core audience.
No, a lot of it. We started off a lot technical at the start of the pod, so there's a lot of people that listen that do enjoy the technical side as well. So, but I'm just this announcement from Polygon about the prover being ready now, like actually ready to go into testnet, is huge for Web3 in general, and it's the compatibility versus equivalency compatibility. So, like you're saying, the ability to do a transaction on Ethereum mainnet or on Immutable is the same. You know that meme? It's the same kind of meme, so that's different than someone's having to make modifications to code and it working on their chain but not on that exact same code not working on EVM Ethereum. So
exactly. And what I will say, and it's very evident in terms of our rollups team, in terms of our founders, is Immutable doesn't really take shortcuts. Security is obviously the number one important factor. So, even just picking the Zkevm, even picking Starkware and StarkX, when they first decided to launch their Ethereum security was always the number one thing. They could have picked, a POS chain. They could have picked a plasma chain. But at the end of the day, it's building for the long term, and in the long term, you have to have good security. You have to have Ethereum level security. I think that played a role in the decision with the prover as well at the end of the day. So
fantastic.
We should see more. Definitely we'll see more info about it later this year.
Wow. I like sitting back and just letting the big boys talk at the big boy table here.
I do actually have one more question about. I have one more question about the prover, and so with the DPoS temporary solution in now, it's not stopping Zkevm from going live and being compatible and all those kind of things, or is there workarounds to enable that now? Like, how impactful is this change going to be from Type 1 to what it is in now in terms of developer keeping it easy for developers?
So it really, there is no change to developers per se, right? The prover will allow us to have Ethereum grade security, right? Because transactions are being proven on Ethereum layer 1, and it's completely safe as a user to use the Zkevm. So from a developer standpoint, it doesn't really change at all. It's more so for sense of security for players, for the game studios that we're trying to win and onboard. Having that security layer is extremely important. So again, not necessarily for the players, but definitely. I
just thought that the Type 1 prover was the equivalency thing. Like, if you look at the document, Type 2, 3, and 4 are not equivalent. but type 1 is. So that's why I'm looking at it. But it's actually referring to the security side of things, not the development experience. Okay, cool. Got it. I learned something today.
Look, it's also somewhat the developer experience. Like for example, on our Zkevm, like the gas, how gas is structured is a little different, right? We obviously altered it to be better for games. At the end of the day, that's what's important. So you are correct in terms of the developer aspect of things being a little different, but really the security is what matters most. So
We've been through all kinds of just amazing information with the technicals of passport, checkout, the provers. What's it like working with Robbie, Alex, and possibly James? I know he's the man behind the scenes and all. You got any cool experiences with them, or any cool information you could share with us about those three, or just one, whichever you can do?
yeah, I mean, I'm happy to talk about each because each person is uniquely different. Obviously, like you said, James is really in the background of things. He is incredibly humble. His ego never gets to him. He's what I've noticed. He's a really great like macro and like strategy market view guy. We have internal company meetings, and James really lays the foundations of where we are, what's the state of the market, where is our end goal, where are we heading to. So it's always nice to hear James speak on just kind of like macro topics, both in terms of the market and Immutable as in itself. I will say Alex is insane. This guy, I don't think ever sleeps. He is always on. He's always energetic. He is literally in the weeds with everything that has to do with product and tech. I'm in the US, so basically when Australia is waking up, it's, I don't know, around midday for me.
Right.
And I've noticed many times that the first person in Australia that sends a message is typically Alex.
Mm-hmm.
So it is nuts. I can't even understate it. He touches every product. He is, within our Slack, he is commenting on so many posts, no matter how small it really is.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like to see that in a founder and a CTO. He's really in the weeds with everything. And then Robbie, when you hear Robbie speak, when you speak to him personally, you can just get the passion, right, coming from his voice, coming from his expressions. He's insanely passionate about gaming. He's a beast when it comes down to striking partnerships, and really just being vocal about Immutable, being vocal about Web3 gaming, and breaking down Web3 easily for the average person, whether that's an investor, whether that's a gamer or a game studio. He's really good at breaking down kind of like Web3 concepts. I do have a good story with Robbie.
Yeah,
at least it's a good story for me. I don't know for him. But I used to live in New York, and Immutable had a presence at NFT NYC. We were, I think, the main sponsor. And I remember seeing Robbie there at one of our functions and just started talking about, because look, Robbie is somewhat my age and Alex as well, which is pretty much insane.
Mm-hmm.
But Robbie and I guess for the most part, kind of grew up playing the same games, or at least the same main game, and that's RuneScape. Both of us were insanely obsessed and addicted to RuneScape growing up. So just talking at NFT NYC with him about RuneScape, I don't know if you guys saw, but I noticed, and a lot of other people on crypto Twitter noticed, that RuneScape had a career opening for a Web3 engineer. I was like, whoa, it's coming full circle because I spent so much money in that, on that game. And I don't know if you guys know RuneScape too much, but they have like rare items that sell for thousands of dollars every day. So
right, I've heard about that.
So I'm just wondering, if this was in Web3, if these assets were NFTs, like, can you imagine It wouldn't just be like the royalties or the trading volume. It would be, like I said, the derivatives on top of that. So yeah, I had just jokingly I said, "Hey Robbie, like, can we acquire RuneScape?" um, so yeah, no, I mean, look, all founders are insanely smart. They're all super passionate. This is clearly not like a money thing for them. This is like they were all avid gamers now and growing up.
Yeah.
And when they came across Ethereum, it was like they spotted it. Probably one of the first people in the whole world to spot that. Hey, now with Ethereum, you can have asset ownership for games. So I truly see their passion in what they do. And at Immutable, they're not sitting in the background, right? They are all really active on Slack and in communications. So I really enjoy working with all of them, even though I don't, work too close with them. But it's nice to see them in Slack and in meetings and in person as well. So they're all really great.
Yeah, we get to see Robbie obviously a lot, and you can see the passion and what you were saying. You can tell from what we get to see between a little bit of Alex, a lot of Robbie. They're enjoying doing this. They're living their dream job basically, and that matters because when you're having fun and you're doing something that you're passionate about, you have a higher opportunity of success. And we don't get to see James in the background, and for whatever reason, I don't know. I can't get the image out of my head. He just reminds me of like a mad scientist walking around in a white lab coat with goggles, pouring chemicals back and forth between beakers. I know he's not doing that, but that's just like, he's just so quiet behind the scenes. And, Alex is like the middle bridge between him and Robbie. And there's this cool little triangle dynamic of taking over the gaming space that they have going. I don't know. My mind goes all over the place sometimes.
You're going a little bit crazy.
I know.
Your imagination's running wild, mate. Settle down.
Just having some fun here. But, yeah. But I appreciate your time. You've given us tons of info. We're gonna wrap it up here and give you a chance to speak before we part. But
the 10 questions, mate.
Yeah,
10 questions.
That's what I'm getting to. I'm getting to it. Yeah, we do 10 questions for everybody, and it's a little bit of fun. You just give us a one-word answer. If you want to slightly comment on something about it, you're free to do so. But we try to keep it quick and concise. So, you ready to do this?
Yeah, let's do it.
And obviously, if you don't know or don't want to answer, you can always pass too. So, do you prefer to watch sports or esports streamers?
Watch sports, but I do have a good friend who lives in Miami with me, and he's an avid gamer. And honestly, he's bringing me on to watching esports. So that might change, to be honest. But at least as it stands today, sports.
Okay. So what is your favorite sport to play right now?
Ooh, to play. Okay, I'm gonna say snowboarding if you count that as a sport. But
yeah, it's a sport.
If we're talking about like just if we talk about traditional, basketball.
Okay.
Snowboarding and basketball.
All right, this is not a normal question. What's your favorite position in basketball? This is a personal question for me. You like a point guard? You play down low?
Yeah, point guard. I don't know, ball handling, assists, all of that. I mean, it's just like the really good ones are like magicians, like Kyrie.
Yeah.
Steph. It's like it's insane to watch.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you a fan of Messi or Ronaldo?
Ooh, Ronaldo.
Okay. Which platform is your favorite pleasure? Xbox, PlayStation, PC, or Nintendo?
Ooh. I'm gonna say PC.
I gotta say it for him. PC Master Race. That's what he usually says when he hears that answer.
I forgot.
All right. I didn't know if he was still there or not. So, books or movies?
Ooh. Movies. Sorry.
No, there's no apologies. There's no apologies. What's your favorite movie?
Oh, good question. Gladiator by a mile.
Ooh,
Gladiator.
That's a good one.
Gladiator 2's coming out, apparently.
I'm sorry?
They're doing it. I think they're working on Gladiator 2.
I saw that. It was such a surprise. Like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay.
I did not see that. Do you prefer, if you have one, if you don't, if you could, Ferrari or Lamborghini?
I'm a Wen Lambo guy for sure.
One Lambo. Okay. All right. What is your favorite ice cream flavor?
Ooh. Gosh, I really haven't had ice cream in so long. I'm gonna say it was like Muddy Road or Muddy something. I forget the name.
Rocky Road?
Rocky Road, yes, there
Okay.
we go. Yeah,
All right.
a little bit of caramel, a little bit of chocolate. Yeah, so good.
Okay. And this is probably our most infamous, famous, fun, debatable, controversial, but whatever. You answer how you want to. It's all good. One word to describe Elon Musk.
Gigabrain.
Gigabrain. Oh,
Gigabrain
that's a
for
new
sure.
one. That's a new one. We haven't heard that one before. Okay. All right.
What's the typical response?
Oh, it's all over the place.
Curious.
It is
Oh, man,
all over the place.
You want to go you want to go to all our videos and just fast forward to this part and watch this part. It's listen to this part. It's quite entertaining usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes controversial.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
kinda-
I know he's like a controversial guy, love or hate, but like, come on, like the companies he started, his vision for the future. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't argue that he's not insanely smart and talented. It's nuts.
Yeah.
All right.
People do.
Yeah.
People do
Video.
argue that.
Last one of the 10 here. A video game that popped your cherry. It's the one that like
Ooh.
got you into it hardcore. Doesn't have to be your first, just the one that like you always remember it. It's the one that really dialed you in.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Was it Call of Duty 2? I think it was Call of Duty 2 on PC, and I was obsessed, like super obsessed. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of a mix. It's Call of Duty 2, it's RuneScape, and it's Dota.
Dota. I lost 7 years of that game. You'd know that because of Rubik, I guess.
Yeah, that game took a lot of days of my life, but
That game was
It's worth-
the most
it's worth
important
it.
game,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
I met
Fantastic
my
job.
wife because of it.
Oh, you met your wife
Literally.
with her?
Well, we met in Clash of Clans,
Oh.
but she was a Dota player as well, and she said, I used to talk about Dota, and she's like, can we play together one day? And I just connected with her on Steam, and I saw a profile picture and went, how are you doing? Is that you or someone famous? And she's like, that's me. And I'm like, how about it? Let's go for a beer or something like I can't remember what it was, but we met up. And actually, our first date, this is how cool she is. She came to my house at 5 a.m. to watch the Dota TI6 international. So that was our first
That's
date.
an awesome.
And she used to say, can we just stay in all weekend and play Dota, please? I'm like, yes.
You did
That is
awesome. You did awesome on the questions there. Thanks again for stopping by. Is there anything that we missed that you want to add before we say our goodbyes here?
No, I think we went pretty in depth. I think we covered a lot. Yeah, I just want to again stress that I truly believe, and a lot of people at Immutable believe, that this is the year. So I'm really excited, really bullish on Immutable, on Web3 gaming in general, whether it's on Immutable or not. So I really do think this is the year. So really excited to see what comes out of it.
Fantastic. Where can we find you at on the social channels? You're on X, right?
I am on X. I use it pretty much exclusively to retweets and follow
Oh, okay.
people.
Yeah, you don't have to give that out if you don't
list.
want to.
No, I'm happy to. It's Ranto Blatt. It's my name backwards. So
Okay.
Tal Botner backwards, Ranto Blatt. Yeah, I mean, feel free to follow me, but you're not going to gain many insights. I do want to focus a little bit on being more active on Twitter and posting and stuff. Maybe that'll come, but otherwise, yeah, feel free to message me on Discord. I'm in the Immutable Discord. I'm in this in your Discord as well. Message me there. Message me on Twitter. It doesn't matter, but
Yeah.
Ranto Blatt on X.
Very cool. Very cool. Ruby, did you want to say anything before we head out?
Oh, this has been amazing. This is one of my favorites because of the tech side of it, obviously. But it just really showed me. I learned a lot of things and showed me that, another brick in that belief that this is where, Immutable will have a big future in Web3. Well, it's guaranteed now. They've got to work. They've got to keep on executing, and black swan events can happen, but I'm willing to bet that Immutable is one of the bigger players in the space of Web3 gaming going forward because of just the right people, the right attitude, the right every single thing. And just so exciting. Can't wait for Zkevm. 26th of Feb, Metalcore goes live. I think Storm Warfare is going live soon. So we'll start to see the games in the next couple of weeks playable on Zkevm, which will then start the flywheel.
Yep. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I am obsessed with analytics and like tracking things on chain. So once these games go live, like I will be huddled up on our Explorer, watching everything on chain. So super excited to start seeing usage of the Zkevm. So yeah, like you said, it's coming right around the corner, really, really soon.
Yeah, and thank you very much for your time today, Tal. It's a long one, and
Yeah.
it went long because it was very interesting, and we really appreciate you dedicating that time for us and the community listening. Appreciate it.
It sounded absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Everything, and you're like you said, you're in our Discord. Gamers Galaxie Discord is open. If you did not know, if you're listening to this, feel free to drop in, and you can get the latest insight and alpha from Rubik and all the information for our entire team. And we have some very, very high profile guests in there, like Tal himself, that are in there lurking, and they might just communicate with you. You never know. Give this video a like, a comment, help us out with that algo. We're on X, we're on YouTube, we're on RSS with our audio. And again, Tal, thank you so much for your time and all your information. It's been absolutely amazing. And that was episode 31 for Gamers Galaxie, and we'll be back soon to talk even more about the Immutable ecosystem. Everybody take care. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye all. Thanks so much.